Here are my meandering thoughts on Drug Inc.'s Motor City Rush. In the last decade alone, 25% of Detroit's population left. There is enough vacant land to fit the entire city of San Francisco. I'm sure you've seen some of those photos of the abandoned homes. My question is, how is the United States such an ideal country to live, right? The best country ever in history. When cities such as Detroit are left nearly abandoned and rife with drug use and violence? My answer is because Detroit is 80% black. What do you think? That woman named Jackie, who they featured, who was living in an abandoned home with her significant other, said in the mid-80s, I smoked every day. Now she's currently, in 2012, still smoking crack. My question is, how is that woman still alive if she was smoking every day in the 80s, 30 years ago? Oh, man. Apparently crack has become a lower quality product that is more expensive. Therefore, people are turning to drugs such as heroin. And they talked, or they featured the street dealer, the large guy with his bandana, who was apparently worked in education before, and it was pretty well spoken and seemed to know his stuff. Said that on a good week, he makes $800 to $1,000 for the week. On a bad week, as little as $50. That's one hell of a drop. And even his best week is essentially an average U.S. salary. I mean, last time I checked, maybe it's a little bit lower than that, but it's right around there. So considering that he's risking his life, doesn't seem like a good deal. But like he said, I haven't met a retired drug dealer yet. Haven't met that person. And I guess he's not going to be one of them either. And then he says, if you are not in what they consider a rich neighborhood, the police will take anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 days to come see you. Now, this is not a shock. Detroit is not the only place that this happens. And he says that he essentially is, as a drug dealer, he is patrolling his own neighborhood. He is the police. And then the one I always love is the Border Patrol officers, right, who are patrolling the border, who are looking for people. Okay, here's the quote. Cars that don't belong, individuals that don't belong, as he's driving up to this park. Oh, for example, this car here, it's not sitting anywhere where you can see the water. Whoever said that if there's water near a park, you have to face your car towards the water because everybody wants to see the fucking water? It's ridiculous. Just a real odd place to be. So my question is, how can you legally bother two people sitting in a parked car in a public parking lot? Isn't that harassment? You're just trying to find, hoping, the needle in a haystack, that you'll find someone who has large amounts of drugs. And this is what he says to the woman and with the guy in the car. As soon as I walked up, I could smell the marijuana. That gives me probable cause. Right, but why did you have the right to park right by their car, flash your lights on them, and walk up to them and demand things from them? Like, do you have your ID? When they're not doing anything wrong. He says, put your hands against the car, and she says, are you serious? And then she gets a minimum $1,000 fine for smoking as much as $5,000, but he says a minimum $1,000 for smoking a joint in her own car, away from anyone else. It's just marijuana, $1,000, and she's being harassed. She was incredulous, obviously, but she is, in Detroit, young, black, in a parked vehicle in a park. Not surprisingly, Detroit violent crime associated with drug dealing is 5 times the national average in Detroit. Right. The Border Patrol is hunting and pecking for drugs, basically harassing people that are not doing anything ostensibly illegal in hopes of, smelling or seeing drugs to give them probable cause. He says, we have to investigate something that is suspicious. Well, what is suspicious? Someone sitting in a car? a car near the water is suspicious. Those guys that just park their car near the water, just because drugs are trafficked, means that just because you park near the water, that you need to be approached and asked a bunch of questions. And then, of course, well, they're idiots. They had marijuana sitting on the seat. But well, anyway, it turns out that these guys had a little bit of, I guess, was cocaine, very small amounts. It's not like they found tons of cocaine or tons of drugs. So if that's all they're really finding, don't you think it's kind of a waste of time? And that they're doing more harm than good by harassing people? Um, and then the drug dealer Brick says our state is a very prejudiced state. When you cross 8 Mile, right, the road, if you fit a certain look, the officers out there, they want to search, make sure you ain't got nothing. And I don't think that's cool. I think it's racial profiling, says the drug dealer. But it's true. It's true. Don't you think? Thousands of young suburban, i.e. white, customers have flooded into Detroit to buy heroin. Of course, some of them are overdosing, which, according to Brick, means is good for his business. Because then if people overdose, the people that are using heroin think, oh, it's such good heroin, because people are overdosing. It's so pure. Turns out that Detroit has some of the highest quality heroin in the country. And the last one was fascinating. DMT, dimethyltryptamine, made from the bark of a Brazilian plant, the Mimosa hostilis. Appears that mostly white people do this. It's not addictive. It's a hallucinatory drug. So this was another interesting Drugs Inc. Essentially, Detroit, 80% black, suburbia, mostly white, and where's most of the crime? In Detroit. And doesn't seem like anything's going to be changing. No jobs, no opportunities, just drugs and violence.